Okay,
6:30.
we will start with the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, you got the roll. What?
I do. I didn't hear from Eric. Have you?
No, he was there last night. I haven't
Last
heard
night?
him
Yeah, at the town
at
meeting.
the town meeting.
Oh, I was at zoning. Well, I haven't heard from him, so maybe he'll be here,
Okay.
but he's the only one. that's
Probably
here.
trying to find a parking slot, Jerry.
Oh, it's possible.
Yeah, there were no,
You know what?
I got,
I know.
I think I got the last one.
Well, across the street.
Is there something we can do?
Yeah,
It's terrible when you come here.
I didn't say it.
As-
I didn't put them up to it.
You can start at
It's-
5:30.
It's terrible when you come here, when you come here as a volunteer
That's when I.
and you can't find a parking space. Because they're using it all for people who are paying.
Where are they all going?
Well,
Okay.
there's a
Okay.
case event. Yeah.
There are a bunch of little kids with little league uniforms on. It said the Ticks.
Are
I,
they too young to drive?
That's lacrosse.
oh, that's lacrosse?
Texas lacrosse.
Okay.
But anyway, I don't know. All
Okay,
right.
so moving along.
Moving along,
Should I have a motion to approve the minutes from 4/4?
so moved.
Right, second. Any additions, corrections, or comments on the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I think somebody was
That's
supposed to.
$5. You get charged for that.
Okay, town hall operational assessment discussion.
Well, we made sure that we put this on for discussion only. So bringing in a consultant has been something that we've talked about for various departments over the years. I thought about it 7 or 8 years ago, really never did anything, before COVID, we got together with the Board of Ed and kind of said, hey, why don't we bring someone in? And they said, they kind of put the brakes on and said, let's pull some low hanging fruit together first. And we can, we're on the same finance system and we do share some services. But we've seen to have hit an impasse. And I said to Leanne once, I just said, hey, let's take a look at this again for town hall. See how we are doing. IT is kind of something that I think we both have some concerns with, not that we don't think Larry does an outstanding job, but it's a one-man operation. It's not uncommon for schools and a municipality to have an IT department that kind of does both. They clearly have a lot more IT than we do. And so it would be more for succession planning than it is. We're not up to snuff right now, because we are. And, also just how we're doing our business. Now, we sat with them twice. They took notes. You guys have all seen what they came back with. It's a fair bit of money. If you add up the 3 projects together, it's like 90-something thousand. If we do it separately, if we do it together, it was more like 71,000. I don't know if there's bang for the buck there or not. When you look at 70,000, it's a lot of money. But on the other hand, if they came back and they said, within 2 or 3 years, if you made these changes, it could be, the savings on that could be compounded if we were to save, if we were able to find some savings. The whole idea is not to just find savings, though, it's to run better. Which we're looking to do all the time. So it's before you, Leanne, I'll let you comment a little bit on it. I know.
Well, I would just say that all of our departments are silos, we go from land use, then we go over to building, down to the assessor, to the tax collector, finance, all of those. And so everybody does their own thing, everyone has their own systems. And we have started internally to work on some of these things to make it better, to improve upon the workflow. But I think, having the value is to have someone from the outside who has looked at other municipalities, take a look at what we do. We would hope that, we could maybe automate the way that things run from system to system, or maybe in our cross training of our people, things like that, could improve efficiencies. Our management team, I hate to say, is a lot of us are over 60. And so they would be looking at that in terms of. Just barely, thank you.
She just said management team.
Yeah, I did say management. And so, do we have, it's not just operations, it's all about, do we have the people in place? Is the operational depth strong enough? And if we can, are the silos necessary, or is there things that we could do to make a better working wheel, so to speak?
So, and we do have workflow meetings.
Yeah.
So we've started that about a year ago to try to better improve workflow. And so when we talk about efficiencies and things like that, we know that they could come back and say, with an investment of $250,000 in this software, I mean, that could happen too. And, we may not, this board or a future board or may not have an appetite to do that. So it's the unknown.
70,000 doesn't seem like that high in all honesty, when you start considering, we spent 50 for the park and rec consultant.
Well, it was actually more than that. That was a strategic plan. Yeah, I mean, we spent 50, but
Right.
I think the recommendation was for a higher amount.
It was.
17 million.
All the
That's
problems.
the end result. Yes, you're right.
But it does
We're gonna
bring
get there with an extra $2 on mini golf.
But if you have each department head thinking about what their strategic plan is, and they're looking at it myopically and not looking at it together through the vision of the town, it's nice when somebody comes and looks globally at the whole situation and can develop what's going to happen when when Larry Hayden decides to retire, and Mark Gardner's at this school and the police department, he's, could retire as well. So there's, ways to look at it that might be helpful to the town. Then we're not putting out a fire, which is what we want to avoid. We want to be strategic in our thinking. We don't want to come up to a situation and then decide, oh my God, what are we going to do about it? It would be a helpful tool for us to manage.
Maybe they recommend a town manager, right?
Maybe they do.
Could be a different form of government,
Right.
but I doubt it. I doubt they're going in that direction, but so, go ahead.
Is this the time for questions?
Yeah, sure. I mean,
So,
it's a discussion.
yeah, I guess I'm listening to what you're saying, read what they presented. And I'm not sure I'm seeing the same thing between what they presented and what you're saying. I think the idea of some kind of outside review of what we're doing is always a good idea. Every 5 or 10 years, we just got to look at it. As you say, people get into their silos. How do we do that? So I think I think in general, that's a good idea. I'm concerned that when a group like this comes in and is speaking solely in the language of efficiencies, it's looking at how do we cut out? And I think, frankly, as we look around, because we have more and more to do within town hall and the various places in town hall, that the look ought to not only be kind of present day, but the future, and say, how can we position the staffing of these various departments in town hall to be able to meet the future? And my concern, like you say, any one of those key individuals at the top, there's no succession planning for them. So what would be something that we could be putting in place now in the way of, an assistant director or whatever the case may be that would allow for that succession planning, which at the end of the day, for us, is going to cost us some more money, some more personnel in order to be able to have that happen. But to me, that's what would make sense. And then when you bring in the whole question about, the schools, there's a discussion in there solely about IT, but, I may be the only one at the table, but I'm thinking, get our toe wet, we may as well jump in the water. Why aren't we looking at the whole thing? I mean, at least let's know what's possible. And then if we choose to not do what's possible, that's our choice. But right now, I'm not sure any of us know what's possible.
So, this is not simply to save money. That's not what it's for.
I know,
And that's not what we want.
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm just reading this and I'm not getting
Yeah.
that out of it.
And again, this is for discussion purposes, if you wanted to have the Board of Ed or management in, central office in, you can invite them in also to discuss this and say, do you mind if we, if the Board of Finance has requested, we have this, if you're in for a penny, in for a pound, right? It says that we're throwing it out there kind of.
I feel as though that you've done a lot of that. I mean,
We have.
You have made a lot of these departments where they're sharing help and all that type of thing.
We have.
You
And
look at the project you just did over here.
we've done a lot on the collective bargaining side
Yeah.
to eliminate positions, not to get rid of them, but to make them more useful to all the staff, not just the tax collector or, yeah.
So, I mean, I think you've done a lot of that on your own.
So in a way, the next step is to kind of what Bruce was just saying, to kind of pull it all together. We looked at individual things, now we need to pull it all together. And I think that's why they go from one department all the way through to the end. And they did talk a lot about succession planning. I mean, it's maybe not listed so thoroughly in here, but they did.
I think in a small organization like this, though, that's very hard to do. I mean,
Which part?
succession, I mean, when you've got an office.
It
like
is.
the Town treasurer, you got one full-time person that's the head of the department, and you got a second person.
But there's
And look what happened before. We had Barry Maynard here for 25 years or whatever, and they
Yeah.
both went out the door within 2 weeks, so.
And we were
Yeah.
fine because we had
Yeah.
procedures, we had other people that knew what was going on, and it's the checking of the backup
But
that's there.
I gotta say, with all the changes that happened in this town hall, I think the town hall is better off.
I do too. I mean, I have to say that, I guess, but I really do
No, I
think,
believe it.
12 years on, we're better off. For succession planning, it is very difficult. So, we talk about this at CCM a lot, and at the state legislature a lot. And Rick, you probably have some familiarity with this also statewide. People aren't people aren't becoming fire marshals and building officials and zoning officials. They're not. There's no recruitment into these industries saying these are good jobs or good paying jobs in a municipality, and municipalities struggle to fill these positions. So finding and Rick, you okay there? Yep, take your time.
Sorry about that.
Finding the people to be an assistant land use director or something, and so you have succession planning is difficult enough. I mean, finance directors are very difficult to find. It's a crazy situation. So I don't know that, I think when you say, succession planning, I don't know that we're saying we're thin on staff. I don't know that we want more staff in town. I don't. I don't know that would help us. If we're not missing tasks because of that. But
to your point, we don't know what we don't know.
we don't know what we don't know. And I think when you combine, when we went through this, Leanne and I talked about it. I don't know, I don't want to make any announcements about my future or anything, but, or Leanne's future for that matter. That's probably way more important, to be honest with you. Well, it is. I mean,
It is.
yeah, I'm not, I mean, listen, what?
I have a comment for you.
But, go ahead, Tom.
Well, I didn't know how long you were gonna go, so I had to put it in there. But I mean, I don't see a documented method for institutional memory here. And I've talked about the institutional memory before. So does Leanne have a daily logbook? Does our town foreman, our project manager for the town public works, does he have a daily logbook? What he does, who he talks to? So that's an immediate thing that somebody needs to look to if they're gonna take over if somebody's out for an extended period of time. Like, when Larry was out and had issues, a lot of it might have been in his daytimer and stuff, but does Larry of IT have a daytimer? He writes down and documents what he does every day. Or in his case, he'd probably type it up on his computer. You know,
So I think, it varies department by department,
Right.
but I would say mostly, other than DPW, so we did not have a finance director in 2011. We didn't have a finance director until 2012 or 13, Lisa Carver. One of the reasons that position was created, and one of the reasons that I said we need a finance director is to make the first selectman a little bit more irrelevant and to institutionalize the knowledge of what's really important in this town. And I think we've done that in town hall. I think Leanne has taken what Lisa started and perfected it. And, you know, I think when you walk into this building, the next person can govern knowing that there is stability in the finance office, hopefully no matter who's there. You know, I'm not gonna speak for DPW. I think that's maybe a special place. It's paving, it's roads. It's, you know, you always need a good manager. You need, you know, it really is just planning out jobs and constructing the jobs. Maybe it could be better over there institutionally, but I don't know that there's a lack of that anywhere else in town hall. I think we've institutionalized a lot of our knowledge here. And
on a day-to-day basis or?
well, I don't know
monthly?
Tom, I don't know what you mean by that necessarily
In
on
other
a
words,
day-to-day
you have
basis.
a day timer, you write down who you contacted or this or that, so that if your work needs to be followed up on, it's easy to do that.
So if I may, a lot of our work is done on systems now, like in finance. And so, you know, for example, just doing accounts payable, they put it into the system, then it comes to me and I approve it, then it goes to Carl and he approves it, and it's all proceduralized and electronically audited. But that's just one example. There's systems, you know, that do all those things. In IT, we have put everything into the cloud. So we have taken the risk out of Larry working on those servers in the back room to contracting with providers that don't know how to take care of that. So we really need to understand a different channel. And, you know, I can speak for my area that every task that we do, two people have to know how to do it. And I teach everybody how to do everything that I do. So, you know, we understand that and we have begun to work on it, but I think it would be great to have somebody come in and say, yeah, you did a good job on this, but you can do some more work over here on these other things. I mean, I think it would be wonderful.
So when you got this quote, did you get any other quotes?
No, we didn't. We have a prior little bit of a relationship with this group. They, number one, we had them in, we interviewed them, I think, to be our audit, our,
E-finance. They did the
well,
e-finance system.
e-finance,
That's what they did.
okay.
They did the RFP for
They
us.
helped us. They did the RFP for that. They're also auditors. It was Plum Shapiro. That's who it was. Jeff appears at CCM conferences with Lindsay and they pitched this. This is one of their services. So I've seen Jeff Ziplo around a lot. Coincidentally, he now, I don't know if he's full-time in town. He bought a house in town. He loved it so much. So we just went to them. So the answer is no. Professional services, we just went to them. this is a discussion, you know, they have put in some work to date. But no, we didn't get other quotes, because I feel like I've known Jeff for 7 or 8 years now, just through CCM, through Plum Shapiro, now CLA, which is a bigger organization. They're consultants. That's what they do. You know, I think you could go out and if you requested the same thing, yeah, you get less or more.
Now, I do see they're in West Hartford, so, but.
They're national. They're big, very, very big outfit.
On top of their fees and, travel expenses, et cetera.
Leanne questioned that.
Yes, so they have a 5% technology fee, which is just something that's just new, and I asked him about that. He said, whatever, if we were to go with them, whatever fee we pick, 5% of that would go towards technology. And all the folks are local that are gonna be, and he's right in town, so you know, I wouldn't expect a lot, maybe some meals or something like that, but it wouldn't be people flying in from anywhere.
Okay, so
You know,
that's,
we could also zoom them in a meeting if you had more questions or, you know, I don't know that I'd ask them to, only if we're serious, would I maybe ask them to come to a Board of Finance meeting, and I'm sure they do it by Zoom, or Jeff maybe could show up in person since he's down here, living here, I think.
what would be the thought of doing this with, maybe one of these groups to test it?
Say that again, I missed the last.
What would it be to test one of these 3 groups?
Oh.
To see how it goes? In other words, you've got 3 different departments here. So maybe, you do the second one, Town Hall Administrative Operational Assessment. And get a feel for how it goes and what results you get, and then if it worked out, you might choose to do the multi-department. Or whatever you choose.
So I understand what you're saying. I'll just make one comment. These 3 things go together, you know, because if they're going to be looking at how the multi-department operations function, they're going to want to know how the administrative assistance supports those things. And the pricing is such that we have to ask, you know, if you do one of these and we decide to do others in the future, would you still give us the discount? I wasn't worried about losing the discount if we thought, oh, that came out really well, and we wanted to do the other.
Would that give them an incentive to do well?
It would.
I mean, that's the way I look at it.
Like an auditor comes in, the ones that we hire, you know, and they give a letter, but they won't stick their neck out on that letter. They just potentially say, very nice, you know, so, we didn't find anything. What kind of confirmation or letter or guarantee or accuracy are we gonna get from this company if either one of you know that?
I have an opinion on that. They're consultants. They always come up with something.
Well, let's go, can I follow up on your question? Because it's a piece of my question too, which is, I would really be interested, should we want to move forward? Before we do, to get, you know, maybe 3 of their recent similar activities and what actually got implemented from, because we've all dealt with consultants and we've all gotten ideas. But some of those ideas are not implementable. So it'd be great to say, hey, look, you know, we did the town of Suffield and this, and this is what happened as a result of it. To me, that would make me feel a lot more comfortable about saying, okay, yeah, this is gonna be worth the money.
Gives you an idea of what direction they might go to.
I like that.
Yeah, I
I'm good with that, yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is why we brought it to you, you know, it's not a small amount of money. It could be a great investment for the town, could be, maybe it's not. But yeah, references and other jobs that they've completed that have led to maybe an oh wow moment, maybe for a community or a town, yeah. So you could try that.
Now, this is aimed at the town hall operation, not our other departments.
Nope, well, yeah, right, that's correct.
Okay, now, as you mentioned, Park and Rec went through the strategic planning. Is this going to encourage other departments to come forward and say they want to go through something like this? Some of our bigger departments?
Well, I mean, so there's Park and Rec, there's Youth and Family Services, there's the library. We did mention that.
The
to them.
library, yeah.
I said, you know, it's not just this building. When you say other, really, the way I think of it is police services, town hall, Board of Ed.
Public Works?
Youth and family?
Yeah, I mean, I've mentioned Youth and Family to them. That's a relatively small operation.
And are you lumping that into town hall in your mind?
A little bit, I am, yeah. DPW, I think, would be a separate consultant. I think if you really wanted to take a look at DPW and what they're doing and how they're doing it, I think that would be a separate consultancy.
Well, do they have engineers on their board here?
I'm sure they can do something like that.
Or they hire another consultant to come on board?
I'm sure they have done that.
But CCM has those type of
Yes,
consultants too, that,
too.
that would come in and do something like that.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, depending on which direction that goes, that might be an opportunity too. I could ask CCM about that. They do have people that will come in. It's not free though, but
No.
it might be a significantly reduced fee.
So this is assessment and advisory services. So once they do the assessment, will the advisory services cost more?
Yes, well, they may advise you to invest. And yes, if they give you a report and say, here are the findings, this is what, and we say, oh yeah, we love this idea, we should implement this. They're there to help you for an additional fee. There's no doubt.
Or we could do it ourselves.
Yeah.
If we're,
I mean,
if
right.
we have the expertise, we could do it ourselves.
Because I see on the three descriptions, one says engagement, the other one says assessment, and then engagement again.
Or should that be implementation?
Yeah, that could be.
So, and are we willing to implement the advice or?
So implementation could come with it, two things. Change for the people in this building, which you have to be careful about. We are governed by collective bargaining agreements, and so you have to make sure you, number one, you don't run afoul of them. And number two, even if you don't, there could be an impact, and they could request what they call impact bargaining, which would not prevent us from implementing, but we have to still bargain over what the impact might be. Number two, there might be a cost to it. So those are.
Any union issues with someone coming in and tagging along with people in the town hall? So they can assess what they're doing.
I think we have the management right to say, you know, we do have some rights.
So if I may ask, what is your thought on this, Leanne?
I think it's a great idea. I mean, I'm almost, we've started to do this already. You know, we have a workflow team and we meet, but you know, it's kind of difficult when people's schedules and things like that, and it's kind of gets pushed down to the bottom of the list sometimes when you get busy with the budget or whatever happens. And you know, I really do think that we've done mostly everything that we can do. You know, we've done all kinds of RFPs to get really great people in here. We've double checked everything. We've done system assessments. We've done the thing in IT, putting everything in the cloud. And we've, you know, tried to get systems to talk to each other, and we've had collaborative meetings. So I think, you know, our bag of tricks, you know, is almost full. And it would be nice to come in and see somebody that's looked at other municipalities. And again, I think the most important thing is every department head is thinking about their own thing. And to have somebody come in and do a more global look would be valuable.
And maybe hearing from them and saying, you know, look, we are a relatively small town in terms of personnel and you know, is there a way to, I don't know if we can function more in an integrated manner or not, you know? I'd like to think we could. I don't know what other towns do. I'm not there every day. I'm guessing a lot of towns do just operate in silos. We've really tried to break that a little bit, especially as new personnel came on. That's been the opportunity. And we've seized that opportunity, and it's been just a breath of fresh air, to be honest with you. Why don't we go back to them and say, what are your success stories and references?
Could I just wanted, succession is an important fact going forward. Structure doesn't allow for succession from the top. And the only way you're going to get that is with Bruce's idea of an administrator or a town manager, like you mentioned.
I didn't know it was Bruce's idea.
Well, or administrator. And for me, that meant
Yeah.
that somebody who was
Yeah.
going to follow through with the succession. And direction comes from the top. And succession is important in that sense. The other question I would have is how many people in the structure that you have are full-time? What percentage are part-time? It's a better way of asking the question. Because once again, if you have part-time people, your schedules are so different that the direction coming down doesn't get implemented. Because meeting times are important for people to receive direction and then implement whatever you're deciding. So unless we're really agreed to get a position like a director or an assistant director, what do you want to ever call it, I don't think I would invest the money.
So you're saying in the,
Succession is important, but I know you're not going to be around the next 10 years.
so you're talking about, are you saying, in the chief, like, in the charter, I'm the chief administrative, officer, chief, CEO. No, it's not CEO, actually, it's chief administrative officer. That's what they call it. So are you saying perhaps a professional position in that office? Yeah.
I mean,
So-
to achieve what you want to achieve, succession. Because you're gonna have direction coming from the top, no matter what form it takes, whether it's from a first selectman or an administrator. And if we don't come to a conclusion before we even get involved in this as to what the succession would be, I wouldn't spend the money.
You're talking about the top level, aren't you?
Yeah, but that's what this is all about, succession, and I think he's right.
Right, could you go back,
And
like,
Leanna, right?
when Pace was selectman, he didn't run again, Carl decided to run. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe they had much communication at all.
This is true.
And yet Carl, you know, we watched him do what he's done, and
But what if
So-
you get a Democrat in?
Oh, then everything will just go to hell.
We go to hell. I hate to mention it, but.
No, I mean, so I think you're talking about a charter change though, because really,
Well, I don't know what I'm talking
you are, I mean, and
But are you saying that, or are you saying don't look for the things that you want to improve unless you're willing to improve,
Pretty much, yeah.
basically?
but I don't think we're talking
Because
about.
otherwise we keep, unless we do that, we keep the same team. I don't mean, I'm not offending you in any way. I mean, the same team in place. And we're not changing really anything.
You're changing everybody below, possible.
Well, again, that's why I asked the question about part-time and full-time. If you have part-time people, your turnover is usually very high. And their instinct and not credibility, but their instinct and willing to give a little bit more is not as dynamic as a full-time employee usually. I mean, That's just my feeling.
Well,
I've dealt with a lot of people in my life.
When you look at other towns though, that have gone to a manager, the life of a manager is not long. I mean,
It's a tough, I wouldn't.
It's hard to find, they're hard.
It's a hard
they're
job.
hard, yeah, and
Yeah.
their life expectancy is
And-
short.
I'm not espousing it, I'm just throwing it out.
Yeah, so, Westbrook. I think when you start talking about a different form of government, okay, I don't know that, so Westbrook thought about this, I don't even know, 7, 8 years ago, and it got defeated 2-1. And I will tell you that my sense, and you're right I think you're right in the sense that anybody can be elected, okay? And, you can get
Even a Democrat.
19-year-old, I mean, if you're a good campaigner, you can be elected. I mean, in theory and, not qualified. So getting, but I think once you change the form of government, I'm not sure that would fly in a smaller town. You could always, the voters will decide on that if it ever did, but people love, a town manager doesn't necessarily, you're not gonna have a residency requirement, because you won't find that person.
Right.
And the residents want to call that person about the tree in their yard or something. And we're getting, I think, a little granular here in this discussion.
No, I disagree with that.
Okay.
Because your whole focus point is on succession. And what I'm saying
Well,
is.
it's
the
not.
structure doesn't allow for that.
It's not necessarily just on, it's not necessarily
It's
just
the
on
focal
succession.
You want the ideas coming from your office, the chief's office, whatever, to flow through your entire system. You're giving direction.
I think the idea is just better government. And maybe,
I think you're trying to practice that now.
but I think that's what we'd be trying to achieve in this anyway.
Can I
Yeah.
weigh in? Point one, I think that this also speaks to why would we want a set of outside eyes to come in? Because who knows, as Rick said, we don't know what we don't know. And so somebody coming in could say, here's the right way to structure this in order to make it happen. That could be different than what we would. And just for the record, I wasn't suggesting town manager, I was suggesting within the departments that there be an assistant or something that is learning what's going on, so that if the department head left, then there would somebody be able to step into the
I
shoes.
took it the wrong way. I projected.
Yes, I was just gonna say.
Not to me.
Yeah.
We were friends. We were.
Yeah, right.
We were, right.
And this
Have
is.
to move my
Right,
chair.
right. And this is gonna be completely granular, but should this go forward, knowing the way consultants, charge for time, I would love to see that there is a presentation to the Board of Finance as part of the, service. Right now, it's not, they'll have 2 meetings with, whatever the town team is. But I think once they've done the work, being able to come in and meet with us and have that kind of conversation would be important. Right.
I think this is more of a higher level than what I'm about to espouse upon. That they're gonna measure the distance from your office to the mailbox, or they're gonna measure the distance to the one copy machine on the floor and tell everybody they should have their own copy machines. I think we're looking at a higher level than that particular ergonomics, I
Yes.
believe, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Why don't we go back to them?
Yeah.
All right, I think. It's
Good
pretty,
discussion, man.
yeah. Why I said, make sure it's just discussion, we're not looking for action. We're not looking
Will they
for.
come in? Will they come in and talk to us?
We can talk to them about that, I just don't wanna, I don't wanna waste their time and then have nothing happen, but obviously they're in it to get the business and we'll do what they have to do. So we'll ask them. And certainly it can be by Zoom, it's gonna be 45 minutes at the tops, so. And then we'll ask them at that time, if they do come in, to show us some other projects. Right?
Yeah, sounds good.
That's me.
Selectman report, please.
Oh. God. Ouch.
He's hungry.
My Lord. Anyway, interesting, right, though? I mean, I love talking about it.
Forward thinking.
Yeah, I mean. Okay. So, all right, well, there's nothing else, huh? So we did launch our today, Celebrate Old Saybrook. This is our street party that we're gonna have. Have you guys heard about this? You're gonna hear about it a lot, because we went live today with it. June 25th, Sunday, we are gonna close Main Street from Sheffield Street to Coulter Street. All 4 lanes shut. We have a main sponsor from You Flowers. Up to a certain amount of money that's gonna pay for a lot of stuff like bands. We're gonna have bands. We're gonna have 2 bands that day. We're gonna have children's entertainment too, some juggling, balloons, magic show. We're gonna have an eating area. I talked to Bill Childress about Porter Plaza. I secured an insurance policy today because we're gonna have a liquor license. I'm gonna be the permittee. So the town is actually getting the ability to serve beer. It's not wine, it's not spirits, it's beer. So we're gonna invite a lot of craft brewers to come. We're making it really inexpensive for people to participate, $50. And what they will do is they'll have a stall on Main Street. So if you are a business on Main Street, you will be able to use your sidewalk and your parking areas at no charge, no $50. If you're coming somewhere else from another part of town or another town or another county or another state, we welcome you and you can be set up in a stall. Your back will be to the median and you'll be facing, so you'll be on the inside lane of Main Street on both sides of Main Street. We've mapped it out. There's about 80 stalls. We figure we're going to supply some power because there's not a lot of power out there, but we're going to increase the power out there. And Sal also from Majestic Electric, they have these power strips. So we're going to plug into the 2 boxes out there. He's just got to change some circuitry in there. The chief has a power box also with 20 circuits. So we should have power, some power, not high-end power, for businesses to heat or cool. I rented bathrooms. We're gonna have 7 toilets over by the hardware store and a few more on this end. The band, as I said, will hopefully be set up in Porter Plaza. I have to secure that with Bill Childress. I already talked to him about it. He will be an additional insured on the policy. Getting an insurance policy was, I just got the quote today, relatively inexpensive, $1,100. For us to serve liquor, the town have a liquor permit for the day. I thought that was incredibly inexpensive. Very pleased with that. And as I said, we have a sponsor. It is, if you go on the Chamber's website, you'll be able to see, it looks something like this, basically celebrate Saybrook Street Party, 1 to 6 in the afternoon. We didn't do it on a Saturday because we figured the restaurants are busy enough on a Saturday. Hopefully this will be some additive business for the restaurants on Main Street if they want to stay open. The main sponsor from You Flowers is right there. Main Street will be closed. Shop, dine, and party on Main Street. Join Main Street businesses, street vendors for shopping, dining, live entertainment, and family fun. That's the idea. Just have, so the genesis of this was when we were in COVID and kind of waning, so maybe in 20, so maybe 21, early 21, and then we were saying, let's do something to get out and get people outside, maybe an outside party on the town green. And then Omicron hit and that got, so it came back up more recently, about 2 months ago. From You Flowers was interested in sponsoring a year and a half ago. They're interested again. So that's great. Mike Chapin lives in town, local resident, very, very generous, donated to OS Cares also. Very receptive to that. So we're working on a bunch of stuff right now. It's taking up quite a bit of time, a little bit for me. Chief Spira, Brett Elliott is helping with the bands. John of Paradise is all in on the entertainment. So pray for good weather, no rain.
Earliest hurricane ever.
Yeah,
Not documented in your daytime for institutional.
it is. It is.
That's what I'm talking about.
It is.
Yep.
So
For,
in the town charter, it says the first selectman shall keep a log or keep a record of his daily activities.
Okay.
So obviously I have an Outlook calendar, okay, so people can see my appointments, but I get so many walk-ins and phone calls during the day. What happened is about 5 years ago, a reporter FOI'd my schedule. And I'm like, I can't recreate my schedule. I don't know what happens during the day other than what's in my Outlook calendar. So Jeff Jacobson's office, every year, our town engineer, they give us a physical calendar. It's beautiful. It has your name on it. It's a beautiful calendar. And what I now do, if I remember to do it, and I really try to, is log every telephone call and every office visit that isn't in my Outlook calendar. For, you know, that way, if I ever get FOI'd again, it won't look like, gee, what did he do for 6 hours? Of course, you have emails too, all the emails in and out. That's also a log. So,
Carl, as an attorney, billable hours, keep track of it.
I did that for a portion of my life. 1,000 hours a year. So anyway, so June 25th launched today because we had to make sure we had insurance. And we also got some additional language from Kerma on the vendor permit, saying that they're releasing the town from all liability and indemnifying the town should any injuries occur from the actual vendor. So any questions on that?
the only question I'd have is for a potential vendor.
Yeah.
Where would that person go? Is it set up yet to be able to make an application?
It is. And what we're trying to do is keep politics completely out of this. Now, I've already been asked by my party and the DTC, can they have a booth? And I guess the answer shouldn't be no, right?
Just a matter of where.
Maybe
Well,
we
we
got a
should.
spot for you guys. Yeah. I'm thinking maybe together, you know, somewhere, but, you know, so the answer is yes, the vendor application is open.
Is there a website?
Yep, chamber website, I'm sure Jennifer's EDC. You know, I was getting my hair cut today and, Amber, who's one of the women who cuts the hair there, is an artist. And I said, you know what, you should come for 50 bucks. Hopefully you can sell $200 worth of art that day or maybe more. So that's the kind of thing we're hoping for, and lots of food.
That's a lot to take on, and I commend you for that.
Look, it's not just me, obviously, but I mean, a lot of it, like, so today, Jonna, we want a stage for the van. Bristol charges, they have a stage, 700 bucks. He found out today that they want to send someone with it for 600 bucks. I heard Guilford has a stage. I called up Matt Hoy over in Guilford, who I know. Matt, he's here, you got the stage. So we're getting the stage for free. Our DPW is probably going to go have to get it. So, you know, we're trying to have high quality. We're gonna have a sound engineer that day. We're gonna have 2 really good bands, you know, to get people, hopefully it'll just be fun. That's it. Fun. End of discussion, right? So hopefully everybody can make it. I'll move on. We had unless there's any questions, I'm sure there probably are some questions on that. If there are, you can ask me, Jennifer, anybody. We had our pre-construction meeting today with Bill Layden Sidewalks and the state of Connecticut and engineering to do the sidewalks over. That's going to begin in 2 or 3 weeks. The sidewalks from Ocean State Job Lot to Elm Street. So, well, that's gonna be beautified quite a bit by this project. So if you go into fromage, where you have, what's Mike's shop there? I forget, used to be on Main Street.
Swaps.
Yeah,
Swag.
Swag, and you have, I think, the estuary place there too. That is just one gigantic opening that you can fly in, you can fly out, whatever. So what's gonna happen is we're gonna have two 24-foot wide entrances, entrance, exit on both sides with an island in the middle. And that's gonna happen over at the Saybrook Fish Market too. That parking lot is wide open. So beautification, better accessibility, all that kind of stuff. So that project began today. The gazebo is mostly complete in terms of the electric on it. I talked to Larry Hayden earlier today and said, hey, we'd love to we did some really great lighting in there. We wired the heck out of it for AV. So if people want to present in there, they're not gonna have any issues. There's gonna be Wi-Fi, there's gonna be good lighting, bands are gonna like it. So, you know, we did it and we were like, let's just do it. Let's do it right. And we ran extra conduit. The other conduit we ran was to the road, to the sidewalk. We just ran conduit. In case we want to put some lighting over by the sidewalks, on Main Street. And we also ran a conduit to the sidewalk that goes from Main Street to the front of Town Hall. We ran a conduit to the middle there. The art show may want some power. So we just said, if we're gonna dig, let's dig and let's do it once and let's make it good for at least 20 years. Yeah.
Do we have any lighting for the proposed sidewalk going from Main Street to Lynn Street?
Yes, there'll be lighting on that sidewalk. There are bollards, just like there
Could be
is.
dark otherwise.
No, there's gonna be lighting there. Absolutely. Just like there is right now on that sidewalk as you go to the pickleball courts.
Yeah.
It'll be that same bollard lighting. Yeah.
I mean, just an afterthought.
Oh, no, it's not an afterthought. That is a designed project. They don't design them without lighting. Because it would be dangerous.
Carl, will there be any bushes around the gazebo? Short bushes.
No, because we built the gazebo at grade.
Oh, good. Okay.
So the gazebo, so we didn't put railings on the gazebo, as you can see. One of the reasons is so you don't have to clean it because they get green, white railings eventually get green. So I said, can we just lower it and put it at grade? And that way we don't have to have railings on it. We cut down some trees, as you may have noticed, and it is just gonna be wide open for that band to play. You're gonna be able to sit anywhere on that green and have good visibility. In addition to that, hopefully before the first concert, we have the sidewalk that comes up from Main Street to Town Hall, and then that sidewalk comes around Town Hall and goes to the basketball court. We're gonna run, I don't know if I've said this before, but we're gonna run a little sidewalk to the gazebo and we're gonna have a patio out front. So it'll be handicap accessible too. And we're gonna put maybe a little dance pad in front of the gazebo. With 4 bollards, some lighting. But we're gonna have good sound. We're hopeful that it'll all be ready by the time the first concert starts. But I'd like Larry to start turning on the lights so we have some colored lighting in there. We have lots of different lighting. So it's actually pretty exciting. This board saw it from the beginning. I had written down some other things. I don't know what I did with my notes. State legislature is working on their budgets and all their bills. Not a lot has been passed yet. They've narrowed it down to a lot. Spending is next. You see the Republicans came in with a bigger income tax cut than the governor. You see that some of the Democrats are pressing the governor on spending more of the surplus, trying to get around the fiscal guardrails to invest in the schools. Don't know what's going to happen with any of this. I don't know if there'll be a compromise. On that. I don't think the town of Old Saybrook is gonna see more money or less money. I think we're gonna see about the same amount of money. But Joe DeLong, who's the executive director of CCM, wrote in an op-ed that he feels that some of the bills that are being passed potentially that are mandates on the town end up being a property tax, which diminishes the income tax cut. So he was arguing for more property tax relief than an income tax relief. So he just feels like, you know, the income tax cut is gonna get canceled out by other mandates. That's kind of.
Anything on the assessment going from 70 to 75?
It's alive, I know that. One thing to be looking for next year is car taxes are going to be implemented not based on blue book value, but on help me, depreciation, 20-year depreciation. In year one, I think it goes from 100% to 80%, and then it goes down 5% per year. The estimate is that potentially towns will lose 20% of their motor vehicle tax revenue by doing that. That's $200,000 at least to the town of Old Saybrook. That's the estimate right now. The other thing it misses is Brad's 1975 Porsche. Well, I'm just. Well, yeah, more than 20 years old.
Yeah.
So that, you know, so Porsche's might, yeah, it misses that. So I don't know if there's gonna be a fix in there. It was supposed to be implemented this year. It has been delayed 1 year. What also has been delayed 1 year is early voting. That's not happening. In 2023, let's just throw it into a presidential primary election year and try it then. Either way, it was probably gonna have some bumps and bruises. Probably should have been done this year. But you know, and just take your lumps in a way. I mean, it's gonna cost money. If they could have come up with some money, it probably should have been done this year. Early voting is gonna happen. It's gonna happen in 2024. That will also cost money. I don't know how much the state will provide the towns, you know. Early voting is great. Our COG, almost every member of our COG, 17 members, is like, let's just do it by absentee, no excuse absentee voting. There are 169 towns in the state of Connecticut. If you have 10 days of early voting, they can't close the schools for 10 days. And are we gonna have a registrar of voters in our meeting room from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day? So some of the logistics, I mean, so we're early on in the process. I think 10 years from now, we'll say, oh, it wasn't that big a deal. All right. I mean, that's kind of how this stuff ends up working out at the end of the day. I mean, let's take a big picture view of this. But those are some of the concerns that are being raised right now. Why do you have to have in-person and have the cost of in-person early voting? Let's just do no excuse absentee for 30 days or, you know, for 20 days, 10 days. We have the ballot box out front. So there's been a little bit of a pushback on that. That's not happening. It's going to be 10 days at least of early voting in person. It looks like the last 2 days will be 12 hours a day. 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., something like that. Before that, the previous 8 days, it might be shortened. We're going to need a lot of moderators and poll workers. It's hard enough to find them right now, especially, well, I don't know. I shouldn't say in an older community. I guess in an older community, you have a lot of folks who do want to make that extra money, but it's not easy to find all these people. So we'll see how that plays out.
Carl, what's the thinking on that car depreciation?
Because primarily because of what happened when we came out of COVID with used car prices. They're like, this should not be like this, where, you know, your car value went from 6,000 to 12,000 in 1 year. So, and with the car tax being unequal in every community, where our mill rate is 20, somebody else's mill rate is 36, may not have affected you and me as much, but it affected somebody else in New Britain a lot more, or Middletown. So it's probably fairer at the end of the day. It's just getting over that initial hump of implementing it.
So what happens when the values of the cars, now they're predicting the next 6 months, cars are gonna drop, probably about.
It's gonna be on
40%.
just a depreciation schedule, so 5% a year.
Yeah, but they're benchmarking it up, what, the MS, for retail?
MSRP.
Yeah. So that will, you know, in good times where the values are high, that's fine, but what happens when the values are,
But it
they're
should,
predicting they're gonna tank it.
the values won't be affected. It'll be MSRP year one, 80% of MSRP year
But
two,
you're gonna be grossly overtaxed. If the cars go on the toilet.
if they go in the toilet, right, right.
And they're talking that's gonna happen.
Yeah, but new car prices aren't going anywhere anytime soon. They're just going, they're gonna hold firm.
Tesla just dropped their car 5,000.
Tesla did, yeah. So now you can get
And a
an
fire sale.
80,000, yeah, fires, there you go, Rick.
$5,000
water
for the electricity.
They're also reducing, delinquent tax rate, I think from 18 to 12, I think that's gonna go through. That's not gonna be a big deal. 18 does seem somewhat usurious to me, especially when we were at 0 interest rates. 12% is a pretty significant interest rate to pay on back taxes, so I don't think that'll affect our back taxes all that much.
Well, credit cards now are 17 to 20.
Yeah,
And then, the prime's going up tomorrow, quarter.
yeah. Yeah, okay. Anyway, that's
Is that,
a lot of what I have.
that's a lot of what you have. Okay, any liaison reports?
The Board of Ed told me the other night that they believe they could get some money for the, air conditioning project.
Yeah,
That Julie told me that, they got not in trouble, but what they did is they did their paperwork based on actual figures.
because they
And the
did the
guys-
Goodwood School property.
Right, and the guy said, yeah, but we asked for estimates. Julie said, real figures are better than estimates.
We gave you actual.
So she's talking now that she hopes to get some funds in August.
Yeah, so in the first round, when it came out about a month ago, I mean, I looked at the paper and I read, Old Lyme got 8 million and Madison got 8 million, and I'm like,
That was the day after we
We-
voted, it was
yeah.
April 5th.
we got nothing. I'm like, so I kind of was like, what happened? And she said that the person they submitted to was like no longer there, number one. And she told me last night at the meeting, she said, they promised us we'll be able to get the money that we think we were entitled to. What I don't understand is why it's only $250,000. I mean, Old Lyme got millions.
Yeah, so did Guilford and Madison.
Yeah, millions. So, but I guess if we have future approved projects, we might also be eligible. I think we just submitted on the Goodwin School.
Yeah, she probably should submit an estimate for middle school and
Yeah.
high school
I,
for August.
but they're hoping to get some of that money back.
And we're gonna get back too, right? And we're gonna get back too?
We're gonna give back?
What, we gave them, what, $250,000?
Quarter million.
Yes.
So we should.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying.
We'll get reimbursed.
Any other liaison reports? Comments from board members?
Question? Carl, there's been all this issues about these cameras in town. Can you tell me where the funding came from for those cameras?
Yeah. Within the budgets, each of those budgets, the cameras are 500 each for the year. So within, at Public Works, it was finding $5,000 in like their technology line item. And then in the building official and fire marshals, it was easy to find that, that $500 moving some money around.
Okay, because somebody was questioning whether or not it was ARPA money, and I didn't remember.
It was not
seeing
ARPA money.
Okay.
It's in the budget.
All right. And tax delinquent properties in town.
Yep.
Any big numbers out there?
Biggest number was one we collected
Yes.
this year, so I don't know offhand, I don't think it's anything terribly significant. So I still see people every day coming in and they're paying something. So people are delinquent on either car taxes or maybe their house taxes. But
Any of which are blight properties on Route 1 somewhere that it would be advantageous for the town to do something with it, just to clean it up, maybe?
our blight ordinance applies to residential real estate, not commercial. So I don't know if you're referring to a commercial property.
Okay, so say we're talking about a commercial property and there happen to be a tax delinquency on it. Are any of the known ones on Route 1 something that?
You're talking about like custom marine maybe, or what do you?
All the way down through, all the way out west, we've got some. So I'm just curious, I'm thinking about the old Cumberland Farms on Route 1, I'm thinking, things that
Yeah.
if they're available, then if they're not willing to fix them.
Strangely, some of these folks pay their taxes, like Custom Marine
Right.
has paid their taxes
Yeah.
on nothing for 25 years, right? Has to be at least. Doing nothing. John Cabana's been paying his taxes down there for 11 years and, not really trying even, it seems to me.
Yeah, I'm thinking like the old Cumberland on Route 1 that looks so horrible.
Yeah,
That's wicked contaminated.
Yeah, I know it is, but
Oh,
there's
it is?
also funding out there for that too.
yeah, so there is funding, but I'm not gonna go do a property owner a favor unless they're gonna redevelop the property.
Well, I'm thinking if there's taxes owed, why wouldn't we
But
go
there's
after?
not.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, we can find out. I'd have to find out, but if there was a significant delinquency on that, I think I'd know. I'm happy we can ask Mark to run what's delinquent over $10,000
Yeah,
or over.
just curious if there's a different way to clean up our,
So, yeah, there are several residences in town. So two of them I have liens on.
okay.
We had never really enforced the blight ordinance. Previously, I've sent notices, I've tried to work with people. So these are two that, I'm using Bircham Moses, which is a firm that we started using a little bit for the police commission using them. And they have other services and I'm enjoying using them for some of these other services. And I used to try to work with the property owner and I still do. But I've been ignored on several of these properties. So I gave the lawyer the full go ahead and we now have liens. And after 1 year, when it's 30 grand and I'm sending them warning notices, I said, you're 6 months in, do something with your property or the town's going to be foreclosing. And I hate to do that because it's a foreclosure. But the property is disgusting. It's right on Old Boston Post Road. It's disgusting. I mean, literally, I walk by it frequently. The siding is falling off. It's falling off the house. I don't understand it. It's not right. The guy next door is like the Mayberry USA property.
Yes.
I feel badly for him. And he's called me and I'm like, so I've had it. I've tried to work with that gentleman. I cut down one of his trees for him. I said, I'll do that if you do this.
I
Maybe
was
the
at
property
a,
has to flip,
I was at a, state homeland symposium where they were talking about the grants are available. How are you for your grants for, the culvert up there on, Beaver Meadow?
Not good. So we're applying, let me just tell you.
Okay.
So we applied for the local bridge program. That culvert is fully designed.
Yep.
What we're working on right now is the utilities. Because you have Frontier, Eversource, and Comcast. And those were underground utilities. And it's going to be very difficult to keep them underground utilities. And it's for the first stretch of that road. So Nathan Jacobson's office is working on the design for that. We're gonna do some in-kind services there. Bill Claffey, Public Works, is probably gonna have to do some digging to set poles. We have to get easements. And we'll do that work first.
Okay.
And then we applied to the local bridge program. We did not get selected. We learned that about a week or two ago. You can apply for that program every year. They are doubling the funding in the governor's proposed budget. I think the legislature agrees with that. So it's only 10 million. I think that program is only $10 million. And that is 50% of your soft and hard costs. So my guess is that we're going to be, if that's $1 million project, we're going to be 1.1 million into it. So it'll be a $550,000. We'll be 100,000 in soft costs into it by the time we get in funding. There is a long line of towns for that program. I'm going to let you. They are doubling the funding. It's literally, they just say, these 6 projects are getting funded. Apply, if you didn't, apply next year. It's every year. We'll get funded eventually, just have to keep that culvert intact. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'll look into it, see if it's the same one that you're talking about. I don't believe it was a steep grant.
So the governor has not proposed steep grants for fiscal 24. The legislature put it back in.
Right. Okay, but there was some specifically for drainage through
Okay.
homeland.
If you have
So
some
let me see
ideas
what I can find for you. Okay.
on that, if you-
Okay.
that's a big project. If you have some ideas on that, happy to listen.
Okay, so
That house you're talking about on Old Post Road, does that have a mortgage on it?
Old Boston Post Road. So it does, it has a small mortgage on it that has, we had to do a title search before we put a lien on it. It's been refinanced, the mortgage was taken out like 25 years ago. It's been refinanced a few times, so that's why it's still on. But I think it has a small mortgage on it.
So if you find out the insurance company.
I'm gonna notify the mortgage company and they'll probably pay off
Well, the mortgage, if you find out the insurance company, they wouldn't like to hear the siding was messed up. And they would go.
the homeowners.
They would, yeah,
So
they put a lot of.
you're right about that. And I thought about this previously. I'm like, if I notify the mortgagee that there is a town lien that is going to have priority over your mortgage,
Right.
they'll pay us and then go after the homeowner.
Right.
That's what will happen.
that's a problem though.
It doesn't, but it would
Escalate.
put pressure on, a lot of pressure on them. Because they'd be in default of their mortgage and it's not optimal, but
That's
Anyway.
clear.
Any other members comment?
Oh, I have a comment. Leanne, I thought you did a great job on that.
Thank you very much.
As usual.
Thank you.
It was.
Thank you for the credit.
You're welcome. You deserved it. Absolutely. No, you all did work very hard. No, it's
Well, I
fine.
almost was gonna get up.
no,
Say they
that's
were there
okay.
Saturday.
And you were there Saturday as well. That's right.
I think I'm gonna get your newspaper.
Oh, don't say
You missed that one?
Yeah. No comments from the chair, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, good.